everyone. Welcome back to my
Oh,
channel. So today I have Rudy from Alaska Prepper with us, and I'm so grateful that he agreed to come over and have this conversation with us all today. So if you guys could please give me a 5x5 in the chat before I talk too much, just to make sure that you guys can hear us and see us okay, that would be wonderful. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm going to give you guys a second to do that. Thank you so much, Apartment Prepper. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
oh, we got a
So,
5x5 there from
yay.
Apartment Prepper.
Thank you so much. So, we are going to be discussing if an economic collapse is coming, and if so, what that will look like in just a moment. But first, I wanted to go ahead and just greet a few of you, say hello for a quick second. So, I see Prepperines is in here. Hello, Prepper911. Hello, Coffee First Then Speak. Sassy Gal looks like she had a meeting she had to go to. Hello, Rocky Mountain Prepping. Good to see you. Hello, Uncle Al. I see Rita Hunter is in the chat. Nate, hello, Nate. Good to see you. And Apartment Prepper, thank you so much for modding. I know, Nate, I have you modding as well, so thank you. Cold War Prepper, good to see you. I know you're on here modding for me as well. Hello, Daisy. Good to see you. Angry Homesteader is in the chat. And X24. And I see, who else I see? Nene's Prepping Kitchen and Christian Prepper. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us. So my first question for you, Rudy, is why did you start prepping and what really motivated you to begin?
Oh, wow. It was a very long process of awakening. So when I went to, I'm retired. In case anyone here doesn't know who I am, I'm Rudy, aka Alaska Prepper, obviously. But I retired from the Army a few years back, and during my first tour to Afghanistan, on my way home for mid-tour leave, one of my buddies gave me a book to read on the plane. This is a really long trip, obviously, back. And the name of the book he gave me was Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And the name of the author is John Perkins. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. It will absolutely wake you up as to how the world really works and how the government, in this case, the United States government, works behind the scenes to take over other nations. And some people may say, well, they're taking over other nations, not me. Why does that matter? Well, because they're doing it in our name, right? So to me, that matters a lot. I believe that a government, first of all, should be a republic, not a democracy, like we are on paper. However, I digress. But I believe that a government should have two pillars that hold up its foundation, and that's morals and sound money. If you have morals and sound money, as far as being a government, then you have a solid foundation. Well, anyways, this book really woke me up as to how the government works behind the scenes. And that just took me on a journey of awakening because I was still very asleep as to how the world really works. Then I read another book called Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffith. And this book woke me up as to how the monetary system works here in the United States and in most countries that have a private central bank. And it taught me that the monetary system by which we are governed was put in place for one reason and one reason alone. And that was to keep you enslaved on this system and also to steal your wealth and to steal your labor right from under you through the process of what is called inflation. Right. So I woke up. It took me a few years to wake up, from the beginning of reading that book to the second book, and then to just start seeing what's going on around the world. Then I saw what happened in 2008 with a great financial crisis, I guess is what they call it. And I saw how many people in the United States lost their house, lost, their retirement or parts of their retirement. And then I saw this one video on YouTube back from 2011, and I believe it was Hurricane Sandy. And there was this lady I believe it was in New Jersey, and Senator Schumer, I think it was, he was in that video. And this lady ran up to Senator Schumer, and she was crying, You need to help us. We need generators. We need blankets. We need fuel. People are going to freeze.
Mhm.
And that really woke me up to the fact that the United States government, in this case, is not going to be able to take care of you should a systemic crisis occur. They couldn't take care of the people in the East Coast during Hurricane Sandy, which was just a regional crisis. They couldn't take care of the people in Louisiana and the South during Hurricane Andrew, which was just a regional crisis as well. What happens is if it's a systemic crisis, which means that it's a crisis that involves the entire United States, there's absolutely no way that the government can, and in my opinion, that it's its job to take care of anyone should anything happen. So I started, really considering, hey, what do I have to do? And I hadn't even really watched any prepping YouTube channels or anything like that. And then, funny enough, once that thought process had entered my mind and that seed had been planted that, hey, no one's going to take care of you if something happens. On YouTube, which YouTube was pretty young back then, around 2011, 2012, YouTube videos started popping up about preparedness, right? And I started watching all of those doomsday prepper videos,
Yes.
really do an injustice to the prepper community. But anyways, that kind of like woke me up. Hey, wait a minute, you can put food away for X number of years. You can you can insulate yourself from a crisis if you do A, B, and C. And I just started looking into it. I started doing research after research, and then I actually started doing it. I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning because I didn't really have any guidance. So a lot of the things that I cover on my channel are things that I've been doing for years now after learning how to do it right, because I've already made those mistakes. So that's pretty much what got me into prepping, what woke me up as to how the world really works, and why I feel that the government, there's absolutely no way and no reason why the government will and or should take care of you if something happens. You have to be there for yourself and your family.
Awesome answer. Thank you so much for sharing that with all of us. So, the next question that I have for you is, what advice do you have for
Just in
new?
case you're in the middle of that question,
Did you
you're
freeze?
frozen right now, but give it a second. It'll come right back.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
You
Well,
gotta
while
love.
you're still frozen, let me say hello to X24 Reviews, Rocky Mountain Prepping. Did you hear what I said? You were frozen for a little bit, so I started saying hello to a few people.
I love it. It's perfect. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So, what advice do you have for new preppers who are just starting out?
Oh, that's a great question. And I mean, I can go on and on and on with this,
Yeah.
but I try to make it as simple as possible. And what prepping really is you having a backup to those systems and or infrastructures that you rely on a daily basis. So if you've never prepared before, which you have, everyone is a prepper to a certain extent. Everyone has a spare tire in the trunk of their car per se, right? Everyone has a well, maybe not everyone, but I would think that almost everyone has a 5-gallon jug of a gasoline in case they run out of gas on the highway. You can either have someone bring it to you or you already have it there. But if you're just now waking up to the fact that you need to be prepared for anything, ladies and gentlemen, please understand that I'm not preparing for the end of the world. Okay. If I were preparing for the end of the world, I'd be partying it up, because why prepare if it's the end of the world? Okay. Um, so if you're just starting out, it's very simple. Get a piece of paper, get a pen or pencil. When you wake up in the morning, you write down on that piece of paper everything that you do that day that consists of something that you rely on. For example, what I like to use is when I get up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, to do what I have to do. What's the first thing I do when I go in the bathroom? I turn on the light. Hey, guess what? I rely on electricity, right? Unless you're completely off grid. And if you are, you're probably already a prepper, right? So I rely on electricity. I rely on the electrical grid in order to provide me the electricity that I need to sustain the standard of living that I like to sustain. Okay. Can I live off grid? Yes, but my standard of living would be lowered to a certain extent. So I don't. I live on the grid, So you write that down, electric or electrical, whatever you want to call it. Then you turn on the tap. You need water. You need the water utilities to pump that water through your pipes. so that you can continue to live the standard of living that you normally live. Not saying that you are going to die if that water stops. You maybe live next to a lake, et cetera, et cetera. And then, I go make my coffee, right? Well, where do you get your coffee from? Where do you get your food from? Supermarket. All right. So put down supermarket. You rely on supermarkets to have those things that you purchase in order to eat. And then you just keep doing that with everything else. Gasoline, you rely on the gasoline station infrastructure in order to provide you gasoline, and you write down all of the infrastructures that you have no control over, because everything that I just talked about, I have no control over whether the power stays on or off. That's at the electric company. I have no control over whether the water, that I get is going to be there when I need it. That's at the utility company. And then what you do is you prioritize it. You prioritize that list into the things that you need, because we're all different, that will keep you alive. So for example, my first thing would be water. Then my second thing would be food. Then my third thing, depending on what time of the year it is, would be heating fuel, right? Heating fuel, because in the wintertime, I need heating fuel in order to keep my house warm. And then electricity. And then what you do is you create a backup to all of those infrastructures that you rely on. You create what I like to call a mini infrastructure of your own. So I have a mini infrastructure as a backup for electricity. I love solar generators, all right? I have solar panels, and I have a mini backup of electricity should I need it, should the grid go down. And then you try to create redundancy within each of those backups. I have a mini backup of water in case I can't get water the way that I normally do. I have a storage system for water that holds 1,000 gallons. And at any one time, there's at least 700 or so gallons of water in there. So if the water were to stop right now, I know that I would have at least 700 gallons of water available to me to last me however long it may need to last me. Okay. At the very minimum, 1 gallon per person per day will keep you alive. You're not going to be very happy living on 1 gallon per person per day, but it will keep you alive. And you do that with all of the infrastructures and things that you rely on that you have no control over. What you're trying to do by being prepared is having control over those things that you can no longer control, but with your own small infrastructure, with your own preps, and then try to be as redundant as possible. For a beginning prepper, that is what I say you should start doing, is that, with everything. So, I mean, we can talk about each item one by one, but, it would take a while, because I think that I like to talk.
Don't we all, though? I mean, I think that's why a lot of us are on here too, is, we're pretty good talkers.
Well, I read a comment once and someone said, Alaska Prepper's videos are too long and he likes to talk too much. And I'm like, well, I mean, isn't that what YouTube is for? To watch videos, and someone's going to be on the other side talking? Like, am I supposed to be here just looking at the camera and not saying anything?
Right? That would be awkward. And, I feel like you explained that really well, because I think people need to think about it that way. It really helps you get a better idea of a big picture of what you need to do to create that infrastructure for yourself. And I think that's
so. Just in case you don't know, you're frozen again. So let me go ahead and say hello to Vicinity Prepper Nate Dampierre. How you doing? Michelle the Great. Okay, you're back.
Am I back? Okay.
Yes.
So my answer to that is not going to be as, amazing as yours was, but so I think that, new preppers need to start off with a plan. So I think food and water need to be at the top of that list. And then, strategizing how much you're planning on stocking up and, working towards those goals. So don't run out and go into debt over it. I think you need to have short-term and long-term goals, and then start taking those necessary steps to get yourself there. So the other thing I think you shouldn't do is just start hauling in mother loads of everything and not have an idea of where you're going to put things. So you need to strategize where you're going to put it.
Be a prepper, not a hoarder.
Yes. And have your shelving ready, have everything ready to go for where you're going to carve out an area of your home where you want to put those things. So the other thing that I think that new preppers need to do is they need to
let's say hello to, okay, you're back. Hey, Jacqueline Alvarez is there. So, like I said, I hope that you have editing software so you can edit out all of these pauses.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't. So it's going to be what it is.
Oh, you
So,
don't? Okay. I was going to
nope.
say we'll talk about that on the other side because I've got some good editing software that we
Oh,
can talk about.
great. Lovely. I
Yeah.
love it. Um, so the other thing I think people need to do is just have a plan, and go over some various scenarios, what you kind of think might happen, have those scenarios in a binder. And that was kind of something that I did at the beginning, is just come up with a plan. How would we handle a situation if a wildfire were approaching, or bugging in because of a snowstorm, because I am in Colorado. And then you can
Right.
take it a step further if you need to, if you're concerned about nuclear threats, having something there for that. I think creating a checklist for each family member that you can just pull out of there and hand it each person is going to be important. And you can include your children in this too.
Mhm.
Even if you have little ones, they can have a task as simple as just grabbing their bag and going to the door, watching over a family prep. Or if it's a situation where you've designated a safe area in your home, having them go there. But I think really practicing and going over these types of things is really important. Even things like basic fire drills, or what happens if you hear gunshots in the middle of the night, and how you react to those situations, I think are also really important to go over with your family members, and especially your children. So,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Uh, for a newer prepper, for someone that's just beginning, I would say try to keep it as simple as possible. And like I said before, I don't know if you heard me, you made a great point. Don't just start hauling in a whole bunch of stuff and you don't know where you're going to put it. Uh, buy what you eat and eat what you buy. There is a place, in my opinion, in every prepper pantry for things like freeze. I mean, look at that. I love my freeze dried food. I love my nutrient survival, right? There's a place for that in every prepper pantry, in my opinion. However, I never recommend that you go out and buy those things until you have at least a 6 to 1 year supply of the things that you normally eat every day. All right. Once you have the things that, because you can't just turn on a switch and say, okay, I'm going to go from the things that I normally eat every day to just eating freeze dried foods. It's not going to work. It's something that you have to ease yourself into. If you go from 0 to 100 and change your diet overnight, it's really not going to work well. It's probably not going to work for you very well. So it's always better to make sure that you have a good amount of food and those things that you use every single day, even toothpaste, right? Have enough of that. In my opinion, my personal opinion, I believe that a 1 year supply is adequate, and 1 year supply is good, and it will last a lot more than a year. Some people have asked me before, now that they say, what are you going to do after the year is over? I'm like, well, that has to be a really serious crisis for you to, be cut off from food
right.
completely overnight. And what I think is going to happen here in the United States of America, along with a lot of other Western nations, is that we're going to turn into more of like a third world country. And I'm not picking on Venezuela, but we're going to turn into like a Venezuela, where the cost of living is going to really accelerate, where your money is going to be worth a lot less, where things are going to be available, but a lot of people are going to be priced out of the market because they just can't labor enough to purchase those things that they normally used to purchase to sustain their standard of living. So in Venezuela, even during their toughest times, they were still able to go out there and get some food, but just not really enough to sustain them the way they were used to before. So if you have a 1 year supply, it doesn't mean it's going to last you 1 year. You're still going to be able to go out there and get things, get food, and you'll be able to use those and then supplement them with your preps. So a 1 year supply of preps, in my opinion, is a great way to go. And make sure that you always, always, always rotate your foods. Don't just throw them in a corner and forget about them and think about them, one day when you need them 20 years later. Because although more than likely, if you store them properly, they're still going to be okay to eat or safe to eat, but they may not taste as good. They may not be as palatable. And why put yourself in a stressful situation by having to eat food that doesn't taste good when you're already in a stressful situation that has put you in that position to have to rely on your preps? So make sure that you rotate your stuff. I think that's very important. Let me finish this little topic off with this. I have a year's worth supply of food in my pantry. And not once have I ever had to throw anything away because it was no good, because I rotate my stuff. That's very important that you do that.
Yep. I agree completely. Awesome points that you made right there. Um, so my next question for you is, what is something significant that you've learned in your prepping journey?
Oh, this is significant. You're going to like this one. That one is none and two is one, but 27 is always better.
I love that. That's great.
So, in other words, redundancy. Have redundancy in everything that you have, because you never know what's going to happen. And the 27 part that I, jokingly say 27 is better, is a lot of people ask me, what should I get for barter? Like, what should I get so that I can barter if I ever need to barter? And what I say is, well, 27 is better. Get more of what you already use,
Hmm.
because I love cornbread. Okay. And man, I hit the jackpot on some cornbread here the other day that was on sale, because it was one day off, one day before the Best Buy date. And I've had cornbread mix that's good for years past the Best Buy date. So I knew what I was getting. So, anyways, I love cornbread. I bought me a whole bunch. All right. I bought me enough cornbread to we maybe make it once a month. So I bought me enough cornbread mix probably for like the next 2 or 3 years. So get more of what you already get, instead of getting things that you don't normally use just because you want to use it for barter. And the reason I say that is this: if I eat cornbread and I get a whole bunch of cornbread and something happens, hey, guess what? More than likely, someone else that I know that likes cornbread don't have the cornbread, but they might have that lighter that I forgot, or they might have that candle that I forgot, and we can trade back and forth, with things that we already used that we just got more of. Now, although I do have some spirits, like some hard liquors put away. I don't drink, but well, I drink like 2 beers a year, if that. But I don't really like drink hard liquors, but I do have some put away. But let's say, for example, I don't drink. I'm not going to go out there and purposefully just get a whole bunch of hard liquor so that I can barter. I'm just going to get the things that I normally get. And more than likely, someone else that has things that they normally get, but that you don't normally get, maybe one day you'll need that and they'll need something of yours and you can barter that way. And the reason I say get things that you normally get, just get more of them, is because if you never have to barter them, you can still use it, and nothing went to waste. I hope that made sense the way that I said it.
It makes perfect sense to me. Hopefully, it does to everybody else as well. And I agree completely with you. So, for me, I guess what I've learned is that you can do anything if you stay dedicated and you want it bad enough. And I've
Yep.
learned that you can be your biggest advocate or you can be your biggest roadblock. So, I think many times that we all, stunt our own growth and get in our own way because we tell ourselves that, we aren't good enough or strong enough or capable enough. So, I feel like those are all, lies from the devil. So I've learned to start building myself back up in the word and, who I am in Christ. And I feel like that can help me move those mountains. And I've also learned that, I need to hold myself accountable. So we can't just make
Okay,
excuses.
just in case you stop, you're frozen again. So hello,
Okay.
LG. Tonette is in the house. How you doing, Tonette? Say hello to the hubby.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So the other thing I feel like is we can't just make excuses why something can't be done. So where there is a
Yep.
will, there is a way. So I think that we need to, make sure that we hold our own feet to the fire and really step out there and do the things that we should do, even if we're afraid of them or we're scared. So what I've started doing is really giving myself mini goals every week. So whether it's completing a course or learning to grow food
It's
or
great.
working with new gear or packaging up for food for long-term storage, it helps keep me honest. And I don't feel like it has to be anything huge either, but really staying motivated to keep learning and growing with
Yeah.
prepping or anything in life is really important. So we should never remain stagnant in our learning. So that's just what I've been thinking about that. So with everything that's going on in the world, what are you most concerned about and why?
Okay. I'm here. I'm not sure if you were still talking. That's why I didn't say anything. Man, I'll tell you what, I have a problem with the internet gods. They are playing
I
a bad trick on me today. Yeah, I'm sure it's on my side. It's got to be. I'm just surprised that I'm coming in. Am I like, have I cut out to you, Annie?
No, I can hear you perfectly. You've
Man,
come
isn't
in
that
just
something?
amazing. So you have frozen, like your visual has frozen a few times, but other
Okay.
than that, I can
Well,
hear you just awesome. So,
that's what happens when you live in Alaska and you have to use hotspot for internet.
right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Pretty good?
yeah, yeah. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, with everything that's going on in the world, what are you most concerned about and why?
Oh yeah, you froze again.
Oh no. He's a
This
little
is probably
boy.
the worst interview you've ever done.
No, it isn't. It's not your fault. And, it is what it is. So, we're just going to roll with the punches.
Yeah, you're back now.
Am I back now? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this one more time.
Okay, okay, let's try it.
So, with everything that's going on in the world, what are you most concerned about and why?
You know what? I really don't worry about too many things because I can't do anything about it as far as it happening.
Mhm.
Uh, I put out a video today about that September 24th deal that's been going around, and the premise of the video, if you watch it, is not trying to tell people, oh, something's going to happen on September 24th. Is so what if something's going to happen, whether you know it's going to happen or not? So what? Are you prepared?
Right.
So, sometimes I've gotten messages that, hey, do you know that Russia has ICBMs pointed to Alaska? I'm like, okay, what can I do about that?
Yeah.
There's not much that I can do about that, but I'm just going to prepare like I've always been preparing. And what happens, happens.
Right.
So, with the things that are going on, it's so many things. I talked about this the other day. We live in such a small world because of technology nowadays that if something happens across the world, you know about it in 15 minutes. And there's so many things going on. I like to concentrate on those things that I like to call leading indicators that will allow us to better prepare for what may happen, not for what will necessarily happen, but for what may happen. We can better prepare for those things. But the things that there's absolutely nothing that you can do anything about, why worry about them? Why expend energy on those things when you can just use that energy to get better prepared? I
Mhm.
mean, like for example, a leading indicator to a food shortage this year is that we're having a really bad corn crop this year. California just announced here that about 60% of their rice crop is lost. All right, that's like 15% of the rice in the entire United States that's grown every year. So
Right.
California alone has lost like almost 60%, if not 60%, of their entire rice crop because of this drought that's going on. To me, that's a leading indicator. It tells me that, hey, if you eat rice, maybe you want to stock up on it a little better because at the very minimum, the price is going to be going up next year because
Exactly.
next year we will be living off of this year's harvest. And there may not be a shortage per se because the food will still be available, but the price will definitely be up higher. Why? Because we live in a global economy.
Mhm.
So if we have enough rice in the United States still to feed everyone in the country, whatever rice they want, us exporting rice to other countries that need it is going to affect what we pay for it. And with inflation the way it is, then if you eat rice, maybe stock up on a little bit of extra rice so that you can have it there in case it does go up in price to where it becomes unaffordable to the average person. Because what I feel is that the people are getting priced out of the food market. They're having to get cheaper food because they can't afford the regular foods that they ate. And eventually it's going to get worse and worse as inflation and weather events, you know, do their thing as far as our crops go and as far as pricing goes.
Right. So priced out of food and also our energy, it seems as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. I believe that our energy is going to get worse. I think things, I'm not a doom and gloomer. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I am an optimist by nature. I really love to look at the bright side of things. But the thing is that there's a place for optimism, but there's also a place for realism. And we have to be realist as to what's going on. I say this often that hope without action is just hope, right? And hope is not really going to get you anywhere unless you actually put action to it and prepare for those things that you see that you may need to prepare for. And we can always hope that everything's going to be all right.
Hmm.
But if it's not, then if you didn't take any action ahead of time, then what good did hope do you? You
Right.
know,
I
so
agree.
so make sure that you act on those things that you can see. And I always tell people, I always tell whoever watches my videos, do your own research, because it's easy for me to be here telling you you need to prepare. But unless you do your own research and convince yourself that you need to prepare, you're never really going to take it serious. And I believe that being prepared nowadays is a very serious topic that everyone should be talking about, because we are going to need our preps. I truly believe that we are going to actually need our preps, that it's not going to be a rotational thing where you use your preps and you rotate them. It's that we're going to need them eventually. And when that day comes, if you're prepared, oh man, you'll be so happy that you did, because you won't have to listen to your children tell you that you're hungry, and
Hmm.
then you're not knowing where your next meal is going to come from. And hunger, ladies and gentlemen, extreme hunger, it really turns people that are good people, it can really turn them into people that would do things that they never thought that they'd do before. So at the very least, prepare so that you can have an insurance policy so that you can preserve your own humanity and not have to do bad things in the future because you didn't take a few dollars today and a little bit of your time today to put away some sustenance, some water, some prescription medication. You know, I always say that you should have self-defense, but that's a personal thing, you know.
Right. Well, I agree with everything you just said. And I feel like a lot of what you said is, even scriptural, because it says faith without works is dead. I agree.
Yeah.
So excellent. So my other question for you is, do you believe that an economic collapse is imminent?
I mean, we've been going through an economic collapse for the last, since 2008, I
Yeah.
believe. We have been going through one. It's just been in slow motion.
Hmm.
And anyone that thinks that the dollar is going to survive, then you're going to lose everything that you have that's in paper assets. Anything in paper, anything that you have that's in paper, be it bills, be it bonds, be it CDs, be it in savings and stuff, that will eventually be gone. It will be gone one of two ways, in my opinion. All right. Now, I'm not a professional economist. I just love studying economics, and I love studying history and things like that. And so all of this is my uneducated opinion, really. So the dollar is going to we're going to go through a deflationary period. All right. So like right now, you may think we're going through an inflationary period, but in my opinion, this is absolutely nothing. This is nothing compared to what's coming. All right.
Yes.
But what's going to happen is we're going to go through a deflationary period. And a deflationary period is what the Federal Reserve is starting to bring us into right now, which means that dollars are going to be taken out of the system by the means of higher interest rates, right? And the actual dollar getting more valuable when compared to other currencies, right? So, like today, I was amazed. I didn't look at the markets today till about, I don't know, till about 11 o'clock my time. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, well, let's see what the market's at. I was like, holy smokes, big day as far as the market's going down today. But I've learned not to really look at the Dow Jones as an indicator. Even though today I think it went down like 1,270 points, I don't really look at that anymore. What I really look at is the value of the dollar, which is called the Dixie, right, on the stock. And also I look at the value or the percentage of the 10-year bond. Those are the two indicators that I really look at that will tell me how good or bad the economy is doing. And man, the higher that bonds get, the worse it is. Trust me, the worse it is. And the higher that the dollar gets as far as valued against other currencies, the worse it is also. And today the dollar hit like almost 110, which is incredible. And I know that people that don't really follow this, they may be saying 110, what are you talking about? But that's the thing. We have to become educated in these things so that we can save ourselves as far as saving our wealth, right? Because everything that people have worked for the last 40 years, if they have it in paper, they will end up losing it. And if they don't lose it all, they will end up losing most of it. And in my opinion, it's going to take more than a generation before they can regain the nominal value of what they lost, but not the purchasing power of what they actually lost. So when you look at the dollar, for example, I'll just give you one example on this so you can understand where I'm coming from. When you look at the value of the dollar, let's say it's 110. So let's say you're India or you're an emerging economy, right? An emerging nation, which is like a third world nation that is trying to lift itself up to middle class status. What they do is in those nations, or like for example, Dominican Republic. I was born in the Dominican Republic. In the Dominican Republic, if you borrow money, you're paying like 20-25% interest if you borrow money from a bank, right? So what they do is emerging nations that is they state themselves, am I going to borrow 1,000,000 pesos at 25% interest, or should I borrow the equivalent of 1,000,000 pesos in dollars at 4% interest? Well, it's a no-brainer if you're a business. Why would you want to pay
Right.
25% in pesos when you can pay the equivalent of dollars, only pay 4%? So they go ahead and borrow in dollars. So then what happens is when the dollar raises in value, now it's going to cost them more of their labor to earn the same amount of pesos that they need in order to convert them to dollar and pay back the dollar denominated loans. So the dollar increasing in value the way that it has in the last year is detrimental to emerging economies. And guess what? We are a global economy. So if India, for example, can't pay their debt, guess what? Our stock market reflects a lot of investments that are made in India. So what happens to our stock market? It goes down. In addition to that, the higher that the dollar gets, the stronger that it is, and the less dollars that it takes to buy the stocks. So the price of the stocks go down. And all of this is happening because the interest rate is going up. The higher the interest rate, the stronger that the dollar becomes. The more, the worse that it is for emerging markets, the worse that it is for the stock market. It's all going to come down eventually. So we're going into a deflationary period where a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. A lot of businesses are going to close. The stock market is going to take a crash. I think it'll be more than a crash. I think it'll be a collapse. The definition of a crash, I think it's 30% or more. I think it'll be reminiscent of the Great Depression, like 85, 90%. And I think it's going to take a generation for us to get back up to where we were when we started going down. And what's going to happen after that, after we have some kind of a crash, what I think will happen is that the Federal Reserve will turn course. They'll do a 180. And instead of doing a tightening monetary policy, which means that they're sucking dollars out of the economy, they'll do a 180 and they'll start quantitative easing and they'll lower interest rates. And then the stock market is going to shoot straight up. And that is what's called a crack up boom, where inflation is so high that the stock market shoots straight up, but so does the price of everything else. A good example for that would be Venezuela. I think it was back in 2019. Their stock market was the best performing stock market in the world. But it took 3 million bolivars to buy 1 ounce of silver. So you see, so that's where I think we are headed, because the Federal Reserve, there's absolutely nothing whatsoever that they can do to avoid the pain that we are going to be experiencing here. And I'll tell you what, people are going to be very angry because a lot of people are going to lose everything. They are going to lose their homes. They're going to lose their businesses. They're going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose their 401ks, their pensions. And I'm not saying this to be hyperbolic. I'm saying this because all you have to do is study history and see where we're at today. And that, in my opinion, is what's going to happen. And that is why I am so passionate about spreading the word for people to get prepared. Not only with stuff, but prepare your wealth. If you have wealth, if you have what I like to call excess wealth, because it's wealth that you don't need, for your preps or to pay your bills. If you have excess wealth, preserve your wealth. I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to do it, but do your research, do your homework, because every single time that the United States has gone through some kind of a paradigm shift in the monetary system, be it back in 1933, when they took the gold and then revalued the gold, effectively inflating the price of goods by about 60%, or be it 1971, August 15th, when Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, again, creating a lot of inflation,
Mhm.
or be it 2008 when the government started for the very first time doing quantitative easing, which is just another name of money printing out of thin air, which is just another name for stealing your wealth and or your labor, right? Next time, it's going to be the same thing. The same people that pay every single time are the working people that earn their living by making a wage, by trading their labor for dollars. Those are the people that always pay the price. It's never the wealthy, because the wealthy know that in order for them to retain their wealth, it's not in dollars, it's in assets. Whenever inflation raises the price of everything, assets raise with it. So the wealthy keep their wealth in assets instead of money.
Great answer. So for me, I definitely think we're on a trajectory for this full economic collapse by design.
Yeah.
Now, how long it's going to take us to get there exactly, I think that's anyone's guess, but we really can't keep printing money to the extent that we have and watching inflation take off at every turn and absorbing these huge energy increases. And I think, and think that everything is just going to keep plugging away the way it has without the wheels falling off. So we can see where changes could be made to really help rebuild the economy, such as putting a stop to these green energy initiatives, bringing manufacturing of important goods back to the U.S., and tackling the border crisis. But the laws and the regulations that are being put in place appear to be for the benefit of the global elites and not for the people of the world. So
I
their
agree.
ultimate goal, I think, is one world government, one world
Mhm.
religion, and a one world system. So
Yeah,
um
and the thing is that, now this is my opinion. Obviously, I
right.
say that a lot because I want people to understand that it's just my opinion, because I want to encourage people to do their research, not to just take what I say and go with it. No, please do your research. There is absolutely nothing whatsoever that can save our system the way it is now.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about our monetary system. There is absolutely nothing that can save it the way that it is now. Our monetary system, I compare to a train on tracks. And depending who's in office, depends on how fast that train is going. If someone's in office, it may be going slow. Someone else is in office and may be going faster. But the end result is the exact same. It will eventually hit a brick wall, and it will eventually implode in on itself. The way that this monetary system was designed, it was designed so that it will fail, that it will eventually fail.
Yeah,
And the
they've all
people that
done that
yeah, and
way.
the people that designed this system and passed that information or that knowledge over to their children or to their to their associates, they pass that knowledge over so that they know that when it does fail, that they can be out of it. Now, here in the last year or so, hundreds, if not thousands, of CEOs have been getting out of the stock market. Right? Look at the Federal Reserve back when the market was at its height, when it was like 36,500 points, the Dow was. And they found out that these Federal Reserve bank presidents, that they were doing insider trading. They sold their stock at the highs.
Yeah.
Guess who's holding the bag now? Your average retail investor. And your average retail investor is your mom and pop shops, your 401ks, your pensions, your person that's, trying to put a couple of dollars into their IRA or whatever every time they get paid. Bless their soul. I had somebody email me asking me what they should do, that they're putting $25 a payday into their 401k. And I'm like, this person is only putting $25 a payday into their 401k. Why is that? Because that's all they can afford. And they're going to lose it.
Yes.
That's the sad thing. They're going to lose it.
Hmm.
And the people that actually created the crisis that we are going to be engulfed with worldwide, they will come out of it whole. There may be a few sacrificial lambs just so that it can look good, but most will come out of it whole, if not a lot richer than what they were before the crash. It's something that's happened time after time after time in history, but we refuse to read and learn and study history. We refuse to do it as humanity. I mean, I don't mean as
Right.
you or specific this person or that person. As a whole, we refuse to learn history, and we just continue to make the same mistakes time after time after time, and for good reason. I like to call them the clowns, and
I
it's
feel
for
like
good
they're
reason.
discouraging that in a way, though, don't you, Rudy? I mean, they're discouraging us learning history. They're
Oh,
trying to
absolutely, absolutely,
destroy
yeah,
our history.
yeah,
They're trying to remove our
yeah.
history.
Absolutely. I mean, it's part of their plan. If you take a look at the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto, one of them is to erase your history. The
Right.
other one is to take over the educational system. The other
Hmm.
one is to take over the monetary system. I mean, almost every one has been checked off.
Yeah.
That's why I say, this is not that far off. I don't know when this crash is going to happen,
Yeah. None
but
of
it
us
is for sure going to happen. It is
do.
definitely going to happen, and I truly believe that it will happen in my lifetime, if not a lot sooner than later,
Yes.
because there's absolutely nothing that anyone can do from this taking place. The only thing that you can do is to prepare yourself for the inevitable and stop wondering when it's going to happen. Use that energy instead to prepare.
Exactly. I love that. I feel like we've kind of touched on this already, but I'm going to ask you anyway just to see if there's anything else that you want to add to this question. So, what do you think an economic collapse of epic proportions would look like? And what do you think that would mean for the US and the rest of the world?
Well, I mean, I have a terrible answer. So what I think will happen is that they already have another financial system in the background. They've already got one ready to go. I don't know
Oh, I
what they're
do.
going to call it, whatever. If it's the Fed now, the CBDC, the rainbow dollar, whatever it is, they've got it ready to go because they've known about this for years. The system died in 2008, right? It's been on life support ever since. They've known about this for years, at least since 2016, I believe. 2016 is when they started working on a CBDC with MIT. All right. So they've known about this for a year. They have it in the background. The worst case scenario for me is going to be this, is that we have a major crash where everything is gone and the people will suffer. All right.
Yeah.
That's why I say you have to be prepared so that you can make it through this and retain your sovereignty, so that you don't have to turn to the government for that loaf of bread because you've got your own flour, salt, yeast, and water to make your own loaf. You have to be prepared because there's going to be a certain amount of time that they will allow the people to suffer. I don't know, a month, 2 months, something like that. And then when the people are at their height, when they're suffering the most, the government's going to come out and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Citizen, do you
Here's your
want me to
story.
stop the suffering? Here is what I can do for you, and I'll stop the suffering. And that's going to come in the form of a digital currency, which is going to have attached to it a social credit system that, for example, maybe that 86,000, 87,000 IRS agents they hired, maybe some of them can keep track of the social credit scores, right? And
Right.
Mr. and Mrs. America is going to be so desperate that they're going to say, I don't care what you have, I'll take it because my kids need to eat. People need to understand that together we are powerful,
Exactly.
and together and prepared, not only are we powerful, but we can resist without ever having to fire a shot. If every single person in the United States of America, and whatever country you may be from, if you're watching from a different country, if every single family was prepared for a year, just think about it. It's not out of the question. I did it. I've got enough preps for a year, but it took me like 6, 7 years to do it, right?
Yeah.
But you can actually go out there and prep for a year without having to, use a lot of money, right? You can just get the basics that you're going to be able to keep yourself alive and you're going to be healthy enough, to reason, right? If everyone in America was prepared for a year, imagine what would happen when the government did whatever they had to do to try to get us to our knees and then say, here's the bread. Do you want the bread? We could all say, no, we don't want your bread. What we want is a fair and just system, and we will not participate in your new system until we have a system that's fair and just.
Hmm.
That is the power that we have as we the people. However, unfortunately, the propaganda and the mainstream pundits, that work for the government have done a very, very good job at separating we the people into separate groups. So instead of us fighting the real evil, we fight each other. And
Hmm.
even within the prepper community, you have preppers
Yes.
fighting against each other.
Yes.
And that's something that I don't stand for. I don't care for it. I don't do it. I don't talk bad about anyone. Why? Because we are all here to do the same thing, to
Mhm.
get people to prep because we love our country and we want to make sure that our country stands and that it doesn't fall to these I'll use a George Bush quote, to these evildoers, right? That our country doesn't fall to these evildoers just because we are hungry. And,
Yes.
and I mean, if I could hope for anything right now, is that people in mass would wake up and just understand that we are not each other's enemies. That there is an enemy, that right now we are fighting a war of good versus evil. But we are not each other's enemies, and that there's one common enemy that we should come together and fight against so that we can at least secure some kind of a decent future for our children and our grandchildren.
I agree. What a wonderful answer. Wow, you covered so many things in that answer.
Wow. Man, I told you I could talk.
I love it. I love it. It was so spot on. It was perfect, really. So the last question is, what do you think people should be doing to prepare now for this possibility? And I know we've kind of hit on several of these things already.
To prepare now for like what's
Mhm.
going on right now,
For what's coming.
I say just prepare. The It doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter what happens. We need water. We need food. We need medicine. Right? We need heat. We need shelter. In my opinion, we need self-defense. Right? It doesn't matter what happens. We need all of those things. So if you're not prepped, prep the basics. Get those things that you need. Get that redundancy in those infrastructures that you rely on. Right? If you are prepped and you have excess wealth, I believe it's very important to preserve your wealth in a monetary vehicle that's going to allow you to bring your energy forward, right? Because once we get into the new monetary paradigm, or the new paradigm that they're planning for us, we are going to need to have strong patriots, right? Strong American loving patriots that love this country. We're going to need strong ones. And you know what? Some people say money can't buy happiness, money can't do this. Listen, money can do a lot of things. And I know why. I can prove to you why that is a fact. Because the reason why these clowns are in power is because they get to create their own money.
Mhm.
But if we have to start over, and we can start over with God's money as a way to preserve our energy that we have now, that's excess energy that we don't need. If we can start over with God's money, then we will start over in a stronger position than starting over dirt poor and having to ask people for a handout. So I would say that if you're completely prepped, make sure that you preserve some wealth in a vehicle that's going to allow you to bring forward your energy to whatever new paradigm it may be that we may be going into. Because we are going to need strong patriots if we want our country to survive in the manner in which we want it to survive, because it's going to survive nonetheless. But we want it to be the same status quo that we're going through now, or do we really want a free and just system where we all have the opportunity to strive, right? It's all about opportunity. It's not about outcome. The outcome is on you. The opportunity is within a just system.
Amen to that. So, some of the things that I've been thinking about, I think people need to put a lot of effort right now into just putting up stuff to stay warm for this winter. So, whether
Mhm.
that is purchasing, extra propane, or buying a tent to create a micro environment in your home, or
Yep.
getting your wood stacked for your wood stove, I think that you need to do that as a way to stay warm this winter. And I know some of these things are going to be more budget friendly than others. And I also think that people need to focus on prioritizing prepping your protein, not only because they're determined
Mhm.
to essentially destroy it eventually, but because the prices are going to just continue to climb. You
Yep.
were reporting the other day on the mass culling of all the chickens 43 million, I think it was. And then you couple that with the loss of herds and the cattle in Texas and in Oregon and New Mexico, and the prices for our meat are just going to continue to soar, especially beef, I think, next year. So some
Yeah.
people are saying as high as $50 a pound, which is just outrageous. I can't even imagine that. So I think that, we're in the very beginning stages of all of this, and
Yes.
we really need to be prepared for the possibility of hyperinflation at some point in time. So purchasing what we need now at today's prices is going to just help us to be better equipped to fight those massive price hikes that we're going to be facing. So, and if people can do what they can to pay their debt down now, that's also going to help alleviate things, because if you have more money freed up, it won't be easy to absorb higher costs, but it's going to help make it a little easier to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, every single thing you said is spot on. As far as if you live in an area that gets cold, man, you need to prep your winter fuel, whatever that may be. You need to. I started talking about prepping for winter like 2 months ago, because people are, by nature, most of us are reactionary instead of being proactive. We're reactive, and when it comes to heat, you really need to take that serious, because I mean, cold weather does not discriminate of who you are or where you are or what you look like. It doesn't care. If you're cold, you're cold. So you need to really prep your winter stuff now if you haven't already.
I agree completely. So is there anything else that you wanted to add, Rudy, that you don't think that we covered?
I mean, no, we can talk for hours. You're very easy to talk to. But no, I mean, just get prepared, ladies and gentlemen. It's not doom and gloom, it's reality. Get prepared the best that you can. Every single person is different. Everyone has different capabilities. Everyone is in a different socioeconomic status. Some people can afford this, some people can't afford that. Don't complain about what you can't get, but try to figure out a way to get it. Right? So if I say, hey, I can't get this solar generator, it's too expensive, don't say that. Just say, what can I do to get that? And I'm not talking about a solar generator. I'm talking about in general. Right? So don't make excuses, because excuses is not going to keep you fed. It's not going to keep you warm. It's not going to keep water or food in your kids' bellies. Just do the best that you can do. Everyone has different capacity of what they can do. But like I said, everyone can prepare the basics: water, food, shelter, heat. And if you can, have a little self-defense, especially if you live in the cities. And if you do, you may want to consider having somewhere else to go just in case, and or moving out of the cities altogether. If you can. I know that's a big decision, but that's probably a topic for another day.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree completely. Did you guys have any questions that you wanted to throw in the chat? If you do, real quick, put them in all caps. I'll take one or two, because we are getting up to that hour marker, and I don't want to keep Rudy on here too long. I know you guys are behind us a little bit, so we'll give you a second.
Yes, comfort foods are important, Mrs. Also. Mrs.
agree.
Also Ramirez, I agree with you. Comfort foods are very important in your preps. Very important.
I don't see any questions that are popping up. Do you see any yet?
No, I don't see any so far. I'm looking through them.
Yes, he does, City Girl Homestead. Can you adopt me? How funny.
I just became a granddad for the first time 3 months ago, so I've got another 2 mouths to feed: a daughter-in-law and a grandbaby. So I'm not sure that I can adopt anyone yet.
That is so awesome! Congratulations!
Yeah, very happy. I'm very happy about that.
I bet you are. So
look at that Cold War prepper ass. How's the grandchild? He's doing great.
That's awesome. Okay, guys, I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because of what you were saying. Yes.
Who is that? The encouraging prepper?
The encouraging prepper.
Yeah, send me. I mean, I never say no to anyone unless it's like look, I never put myself above anyone else, but like someone emailed me today asking me to go on a live stream with them, to do a live stream with them, and their channel was about like internet sales,
Oh
like
no.
about selling stuff. I'm like, your channel seems, because I checked out their channel. I'm like, your channel looks like a decent channel, but like your channel has absolutely nothing in common at all,
Has
like
nothing to do
with
with
what
your
I
niche
do.
at all. Yeah.
Yeah, so and I love to spread the word, but it's like there's some limits. I don't put many limits on who I do a collaboration with, but there's got to be a little bit of like similarities to what each of us do. But no,
Exactly.
I never say no to anyone. Sometimes it may take a while before I even get to your email and respond to you and then set up a time. But send me an email if you want me to come on your channel. I love to spread the message of preparedness, right? I think it's very important. And I mean, when I say that, I love this country. And when I say that, I feel that if everyone in our country was prepared, we would be stronger as a people. I say because I mean it. Because the better prepared we are, the better prepared that we are, the better it is for each of us.
Mhm.
Think about it. I'll leave it with this. Okay. I'll leave it with this. If you live in an apartment building with 50 apartments, right, with 50 families, and every single family in that building was prepared, and some major crisis happened, would you be very worried about your neighbors? No, you wouldn't. You'd be like, hey, we're all prepared. Instead of expending energy on trying to figure out who's going to try to break down your door, you can all get together and maybe pull security and help each other out. And you're a community, you're all prepared, you're good to go. But imagine the opposite. Let's say you lived in a building with 50 families and you were the only one that was prepared and something happened. Then you would be worried all the time about when are they going to knock down my door and take my stuff, because no one here is prepared. So the more people that are prepared, the better it is for you individually. Right. So it's very important that we spread the word about preparedness. And I'm really serious about that. So having said that, I know that we're already gone over a little bit, but hey, I want to say thank you very much for inviting me. And I knew that we were going to have a great talk, and I was right. We did. And I want to say thank you to everyone here that's joined in the chats, and continue to spread the word. Reach one, teach one, and repeat. I think it's very important that we all do that for each other. And while we're doing it for each other, we're doing it for ourselves as well.
I agree, Rudy. Thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. It's been an awesome conversation, and I hope we'll get to talk again sometime in the near future. And
Yeah.
I appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here with us as well. None of us would have a channel or a platform if we didn't have you guys in the community here taking time out of your days as well to be a part of this. So we appreciate you. And then I want to just go ahead and end this with the scripture, because that's something I do in every live stream. So this one out of Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you, be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So I just want you guys to stay encouraged in that and know that you're not alone. God's with us. We can do this. And, everything isn't all doom and gloom. He is there with us. He's going to help strengthen us and get us through to the other side. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, Rudy. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
And I will see you guys all again next time. God
Bye
bless.
bye. God bless.